Oh, wow. Yes. For the folks who are in the back, by the way, there are entire seats up front, and it is relatively safe to get close. Today we're going to talk about cognitive marketing, how AI is going to change marketing forever. You heard the commercial, so we'll skip past that. Here's where marketing is today, right? You've heard the aphorism, fast, cheap, good, choose any two. Well, we are at a point in modern marketing where actually we're not doing so well at two of the three. The world is going by much faster than we are. And to be honest, what we do and the value we bring, you've heard throughout the day today, we're kind of on the expensive side. Humans are expensive, labor is expensive, doing all these things is extraordinarily expensive. You're here at Demandbase because you want to figure out how to increase your revenue, but at the same time, you're also trying to learn strategies for trying to control some of those expenses. When I say we're not fast or not cheap, here's what I mean. Marketing lacks scale. When you look at where conversations are being had these days, on social media, for example, according to Radium 1, 84% of the conversations are untrackable, right? So you have this enormous problem of scale. We're having conversations. How many people here, out of curiosity, have an account with, keep your hands up, WhatsApp, WeChat, Kik, Line, Tango, Facebook Messenger, Snapchat? Okay. Everything you do on those networks is untrackable. All of our analytics, all of our data is useless because we can't see what's going on. This presents a massive problem for us with scale. We can't read enough stuff fast enough. I took a look for fun at because this is what I do for fun, what conversations are happening about account-based marketing. In 3 days, there have been 17,000 tweets. How many people have read all 17,000? How many of you read any of them? But if we're being asked to market a product, market a service, market something that our customers care about, somebody's got to read all this stuff. And it can't be us, because we can't. Third problem in terms of scale. How many of you have a public relations firm? If you're looking for one, talk to me afterwards. In terms of the number of news stories per year, someone who graduated from university this year was born in '96. There are 2.7 million news stories that year. Today, we are on track this year for 83 million news stories. Even if you get a front page hit in the New York Times, guess what? It has a half-life of about 8 minutes, right? So you'll get some traffic, you'll get some attention, but this is a scale problem. We can't compete with the amount of content being created. And I have really bad news for you. It's going to get much, much worse. So that's our scale problem. That's problem number one. We're not profitable. This is part number two. Matt Hines talked a little bit about this, but when CMOs were asked in the recent CMO survey, how excellent is your company at marketing? Look at that lovely flat line. The people who hold us accountable for marketing are basically saying, things are okay, but not great. Right? This is what gets us fired. When we look at even individual channels like social media, this astonishes me. The sheer number of marketers, people like us, who say we have not been able to show any impact here, or we have a qualitative sense, but we're not a quantitative impact, which also means we can't show the value. Essentially, this says more than 4 out of 5 marketers can't prove the value of a really important channel. Right? We can't prove it, so we're not profitable. We can't tie this back to revenue. Our third problem is agility. How many of you have taken a look at your marketing technology stack recently? Matt asked this earlier as well. Okay, how many of you know what all the pieces are that are in the stack and what they do? Right? There are days when you look at it and go, what the heck is all this? We are so locked into these systems and so locked into our infrastructure that we can't be agile. When something new comes along, what do we do with it? How many of you have tried Mastodon? How many of you even know what Mastodon is? It's, okay, like one person. It's yet another social network to take a look at. Is it worth jumping in on right now? Probably not. But when something new comes along, we can't adapt. We have an agility problem. What happens when we don't scale, when we're not profitable, and we can't be agile? We're asked to do more. In this case, our CMOs are asking us to do a lot more, learn new things, but yet our headcount goes down. Right? Do more with less, or you're fired. Why is this happening? Because marketing doesn't learn. We don't learn fast enough. We don't learn big enough. That's why we're talking about cognitive marketing today. What is cognitive marketing? It is marketing that learns with the application of artificial intelligence technologies. What are these cognitive technologies? Cognitive technologies are technologies that help us simulate human intelligence. This is a picture of my daughter from a very long time ago learning how to play with things. She's very, very young. If you look at what Harvard says for how humans develop, first we have sensory pathways. What's this thing? I can see things. Then we develop language, and then over time we develop higher cognitive functions. This is how humans learn and how every single person in this room got to where you are today. Our machines are on the same path. Artificial intelligence, the strict definition, is the theory and development of computer systems that perform tasks normally requiring human intelligence. If you can understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, you are using intelligence, because language processing is a key part. If you can see me on stage and differentiate between me and this backdrop, we are both colored gray, but if you can see me, you're using visual intelligence. Right? So these are all things that we as humans have taken for granted for 50,000 years, but machines can't do it. The basis of AI is the algorithm. An algorithm is just a set of rules guaranteed to create an outcome. You use algorithms every day. You use repeatable processes every day. How many people have gotten a piece of spam in your email today? Yeah, pretty much everybody. When that happens, you have a mental algorithm. That's junk. And you swipe left on it, well, if you use Outlook. A/B tests, split tests, if you've done any of these things, these are all algorithms. You are programming machines to make decisions on your behalf. Every part of ABM is based in algorithms. So that's the first part of AI. The second part of AI is machine learning. Allison talked about this in the last session, so we'll go quickly through here. But it's machines' ability to learn without you telling them what to do. So a really good example, in your email box, do you have a spam filter? Probably. Did you have to program it to tell it what spam was or not? Probably not. For the last 20 years, email companies have been working on ways to automatically teach these filters how to learn. This is spam, that's not spam. It's still not perfect, because how many of you have fished an important message out of junk mail? Everybody has at least one point, but this is where machine learning takes place. For example, if you were trying to teach a human, what do we do with these things? There's a couple different ways. We could either train the human to pick out one thing or to understand everything. These are two types of machine learning. Supervised learning says, I'm going to show you this red block, and I want you to find all the red blocks. How many of you have ever used Google Photos, for example? Have you ever tried searching your own Google Photos? It's really crazy. You type in something like, wagon, and it will find anything that meets that definition, because Google is automatically going through all your images, slightly creepy, and identifying it for you. If you've ever turned images off and browsed Facebook, you guys should try this sometime, you will see that the alt text labels on every picture on Facebook have a Facebook-generated description of what's in the picture. 3 people smiling, a person in a car. That's supervised learning. It's being told, we tell the machines what to look for, and then they go find it. The second category of machine learning is called unsupervised learning. Instead of just telling the machines, hey, I want you to find this thing that's red, we give it a bag of blocks. We give it a pile of data and say, tell me what's in here. Is what's in here? So you could sort it by colors, right? You could sort it by shapes. You could sort it by sizes, and the machine would come up with all these different ways to classify what's in this thing. Every piece of marketing data you have can be classified in more than one way. Think about who your prospects are in your account-based marketing system. They're not just employees in the C-suite at a Fortune 500. They're also people who do things like listen to music, they shop online. What do they buy? We can't give them an accurate profile of everything you could possibly be as a human, but a machine can categorize it that way. Machine learning is mostly math. How many people love math? Asking this is a marketing conference. try to relearn your love of math, because that's what most of machine learning is. This is a short list of just a few machine learning techniques. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we don't have to deal with these on a daily basis in our work, but understand that these are the underpinnings of every piece of machine learning out there. When someone says our product has AI in it, this is an important list to know, because you can ask them about these individual pieces. When you go out on the vendor floor and somebody says, we've got machine learning in our product, okay, what kind? And you very, very quickly get to sort out which vendors are telling the truth and which ones aren't. I had lunch today with Aman from Demandbase, and we talked through just about everything on this list. They are 100% serious about machine learning and artificial intelligence, and he had me stumped on a couple things. What does this do? Here's an example. This is one example from IBM. Their machine learning technology, Watson, was deployed at the University of Tokyo Medical Center, and they gave it a patient. They gave it someone who was suffering from leukemia. Some of you may have heard this story on 60 Minutes. This woman was being treated for leukemia. She kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. Nobody could figure out why. So they fed her entire genome to the computer. They fed all 223,000 medical journals on leukemia to the computer and said, figure it out. Using machine learning, it sequenced her whole genome and said, actually, you've misdiagnosed her. She's got a different kind of leukemia. They changed the treatment. She made a full recovery. The time it took to read 223,000 journals and sequence a genome, 11 minutes. Right? We couldn't do that. You could not do that. You don't have enough years in your life to read that many journals. But that's the power of machine learning. The latest field is called deep learning, which is basically a large cake of machine learning. Every time you deploy one of these techniques, you tie one layer of the cake to the next layer, until what you get is a simulation of human intelligence that is better than humans. It's faster than us, it's better than us, and it's cheaper than us. How many of you use Google Translate? Okay, how many of you have been using it since at least before November? How many of you noticed in November it got substantially better? Okay, try it if you haven't used it recently. Google took it and pulled it out of its normal translation matrix and fed it to DeepMind, its deep learning software. And they said, figure out how to translate better. And what the software did was it reverse engineered all 230 human languages and created a proto-language that only Google can speak underneath it. For those of you who are religious scholars, remember the Tower of Babel. This is reverse engineering the Tower of Babel. So now when you type in a query to Google, you say, I want to translate from English to Danish. It doesn't go English to Danish. It goes English to Google to Danish. But that also means that if you typed in a sentence that was a third English, a third Korean, a third Swedish, and told it to come out German, because it would all translate into Google, it would come out German perfectly on the other side. That's what deep learning does. And that's why this stuff is so important, because it is becoming closer and closer to sentient, which makes our jobs easier, because these tools will be able to do what we do, but better, faster, and cheaper. When you look at this Harvard chart, sensory, perception, language, higher cognitive functions, that's what the machines are doing. Algorithms on how they process things, machine learning, deep learning, and where we end up is general purpose artificial intelligence. Ray Kurzweil says we are about 12 years away from the singularity, he calls it, which is when a machine becomes fully self-aware and sentient. I think he's a little on the conservative side. I think we're there now. How many of you have heard of AlphaGo? Okay, a few of you. It's DeepMind's implementation of a Go game. It played the world champion. Now, Go is a lot more complex than chess or checkers or anything. There are more moves in a Go game than there are atoms in the universe, right? So you can't brute force it. You have to learn. So AlphaGo took a whole bunch of time, played a few million games ago, learned how to beat it, and then won against the human world champion in what was a stunning upset. This is the pivotal moment here in game 2 when DeepMind, or when AlphaGo placed a piece there at black 37. No one had any idea what it was doing. Like, is that a mistake? That's completely wrong. But that's what pivoted the game, because it predicted so far ahead of the human player that it saw the end of the game before the human did. So how are we using these technologies today in marketing? 4 areas. Creation is the first. How many of you like or follow either fantasy football or minor league baseball? A few of you. You haven't read a single thing written by a human in over a year. what's happening is that natural language generation is improving, and these companies, including the Associated Press, are now having materials generated by machines. There's a company, Automated Insights, that will take your data and create 1,000 articles of okay quality, which admittedly is better than most marketing, and make 1,000 articles for $250. Remember what I was saying earlier about how the amount of news keeps going up? Well, now that we've got machines that can write news that is better, equal or better quality than what we write, that number is going to go up and up and up, straight up. So the amount of content is going to go explode. For fun, as one example, I put some of Demandbase's Twitter analytics data, and within about 2 minutes, I was able to create at least some basic reporting with some really odd verbs. You can use these tools to reverse engineer other AIs. So I took Google's Cloud NLP, and I pointed it at Google's search engine. I said, I want to know what is in common with the top pages about account-based marketing. So I said, I downloaded all those pages, I fed it to Cloud NLP, and Cloud NLP told me, here's what all these top 10 pages about ABM have in common. I reverse engineered it and said, now if I'm going to build content, I have an idea of what my page should have to help it rank. So think about what you could do with this with your industry. If you could use Google to reverse engineer Google, it's a pretty straightforward thing to do. Second area, conversation. We're seeing this in use today. The ability, first, for machines to understand conversation better than they ever have. They can now do sentiment analysis and tone analysis and even personality analysis. One thing we've been doing at our firm is fingerprinting pieces of text to understand the personality of an author. What does this person write about? How do they write? Are they introverted? Are they extroverted? Do they write with anger, fear, disgust, joy? And then we fingerprint some of the people on our staff. What's their writing like? And try and match up people by personality. Maybe you should pitch this reporter. You should not, because you and that person, their opposites do not attract. All right, so that's an example of this technology. You can build conversation bots. How many of you have installed GrowthBot? Okay, one person. This is please don't tell the rest of the room about this. If you're on Facebook Messenger, look up GrowthBot. It's by a company called HubSpot, and it allows you to ask it, like, what is the monthly traffic for Demandbase.com? And it'll tell you, based on different data sources it's found, what it can find. What does Demandbase spend on PPC per month? It will tell you based on what it can find. Conversation bots are in use now, and they're everything from sales enablement to just discovering the world. You can build your own bots. This is one service from Facebook called Wit AI. What it allows you to do is construct bots with drag and drop instructions. One of the most interesting bots I've seen is an advertising bot. This is, again, an IBM example, where you talk to an advertisement, which in itself is kind of weird, and you say what you want to the bot. You name an ingredient, and it will auto-generate using the client's data and what you, the user, wanted, and put together, in this case, a recipe. I said pork, it came up with a pork casserole. I personally don't necessarily want to eat a pork casserole, but there you have it. It says here, these are not kitchen tested. Please use your judgment when you cook this thing. This is not perfect, but think about an ad you could talk to. Think about when we talk about account-based marketing, about engaging our prospects. What if they could actually talk to your ads and engage with them? Hey, will you solve my problem for this? The third area is analysis, the ability to understand data at significantly greater scales. I was working with a security client of ours, and I said, I want to know what the content strategy of their chief competitor is. So I fed their chief competitor's entire blog and social media account into Google Cloud, and I said, split it up, make entities out of this, and tell me what the content strategy is. And what I saw was this map here. The competitor's content strategy is panic of the day. Here's what you should be afraid of today. Hey, there's this vulnerability. Now there's this vulnerability, and there's this, and that was their content strategy. Whereas the client was like, here's our thought leadership and how noble and wonderful we are. Guess which one gets more clicks? Fear of the day. So we can advise our client based on ingesting all this data. You should probably, I don't know if you want to go full on fear of the day, but you should definitely be pivoting towards having more timely information to try this out. There are services like Watson Analytics for social media, which can ingest, again, thousands and thousands of documents and provide very rapid insights. But you don't even need to use a vendor product. You can build your own. This is an example of some of the conversations. Which one is this? Oh, this was Social Media Marketing World from 2 weeks ago. I fed all 35,000 tweets from one day of the conference into a language processor and said, tell me what people are talking about. And this took me the better part of an hour to do it in my hotel room one night, because that's what I do. But it gave me insights into the conversation that I never could have gotten just by reading the Twitter stream alone, because I can't read that many updates. By the time you read one, 3 more have appeared, but the machines can do it. How many of you are active on Instagram, trying to figure out how Instagram applies to account-based marketing? Yeah. How many of you looked at the top 100,000 photos on Instagram every day? Yeah, no, nobody really does that. The reason why is it's just too many. It takes you as a human about 6 seconds to look at a photo and kind of parse it and figure out what's in it. You could not read that many photos in a day. You'd be dead before you got through the top million photos. But machines can. So you're taking something like IBM Watson or Google Cloud and say, what's in this photo? Once you have this data, now you can do analysis on it. What do all the top 100,000 photos of the day have in common? Getting this set up with a decent developer takes about half a day to get started. Right? So instead of having to waste people and resources on trying to keep up with social media, have the machines do it. Distribution is the next area where we see AI technologies at work. For example, any of you using programmatic advertising? Yep. It's a tremendous ability for these machines to automatically place bids, get traffic, and then when something stops working, just turn it off and move on to the next thing. We don't need to do it anymore. How many of you are manually still copying and pasting and running PPC lists? Like, I don't want to do that anymore, it's really boring. Right? So these technologies now being used to pivot there. We can take charts and make influencer maps now. We can understand how things spread, who's most influential. If any of you follow me on Twitter, you saw I tweeted it this morning, who's most influential at ABM Summit so far? It's Peter Isaacson, the CMO of Demandbase. No surprise there, but there are lots of other people who are being discussed as well. We can do analysis at scale very quickly. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, if you look at Demandbase's content marketing, that is the recommendations engine. It says, here's what you are probably interested in based on the profile that we have, so you can distribute content more impactfully than ever. How is this all going to change your business? It's going to change your business in a whole bunch of ways. Number one, you will need fewer humans. How many of you are based here in the Bay Area? Okay. Have you been to Itza yet? Raise your hand if you've been to Itza. Okay, a few of you. You know that this is a restaurant that requires no humans. No human serves you. You walk up to an iPad, you type in your thing, and magically a bowl of quinoa and other healthy things all appears in about 7 minutes. Right? We need fewer humans to do our marketing because, let's face it, a lot of what we do on a daily basis isn't that exciting. Here's the rule. If you do it with a template today, a machine does it without you tomorrow. How many of you have Googled for a social media template, an account-based marketing template, a PPC template, a blog template? We all have. If you do it with a template today, a machine can do it without you tomorrow because a machine can learn these things. Our marketing will get faster, much, much faster. Another example, this is an IBM example. They were working on replicating a financial audit. How many of you have been through a financial audit at your company? Isn't it fun? It's 3 months, a couple $1 million, 250 auditors show up at your company and just camp out forever and drink all your coffee. When they did a trial run of a financial audit, I think it was a SAS 70 audit, they were able to find 99% of the anomalies that a financial team was able to find, plus 30% more anomalies than the financial team found. And instead of 3 months, their software was done in 7 minutes. Right? Now think about applying that power to marketing. How long does it take you to do a content audit, to do an analytics audit? All these things are going to change because you'll be able to have the machines do the insights for you much, much faster. Your marketing will get much more personal. Right? Instead of crazy weird ads like this, you'll get ads that have cookies that are made just for you. You'll get content that is made just for you. How many of you have done segmentation of your audience? I'm sorry, you wasted your time. Here's why. AI gives us the ability to segment to the individual. Right? There are 7 billion marketing segments on the planet. And AI gives you the ability to address every single one of them as an individual. You can't, we can't scale that far, but machines can. It raises the barriers to entry for everyone else who comes late to the party. There's an artist, Alex DeKid, who did a collaboration with Watson Music and used Watson to reverse engineer every song on the Billboard Top 100 ever, plus the complete codex of the English language. Built a song for him. What do you think happened to that song the day it was released? Number 1 on every chart. Why? Because the machines knew better than the humans what works. How many of you have one of these devices? Yep, pretty much everybody. How many of you have seen market competitors try and enter the market and do badly, right? The people who are there first win first. Who are you going to need at your company to get on this train? You're going to need developers. Here's Steve Ballmer sweating profusely and screaming developers at a Microsoft event years ago. But it's absolutely true. You need people who are developers to connect to all these services, because there are companies out there that have provided the technology for you to start today. You will need data scientists, people who can make sense of all the data. This, for example, is a probability estimator for figuring out popularity in social media. How many of you can read this? I can't. I never got this far in math. But we'll need people who can interpret it. We also need marketing technologists, people who can take this stuff and make it useful, turn it into marketing insights and actions that are useful and beneficial. You need to start now. If you don't already use a vendor like Demandbase, just use Demandbase. You'll be much happier. If you want to build stuff on your own, these are the big 5 companies that offer services. And when you work with them as developers, the costs are astronomically low. For a single piece of text through Google Cloud or through Amazon or through IBM, you can get it analyzed for 0.3 of a penny. Right? Think about how much content you have to go through. I have to read 10,000 articles this month. Actually, that's not that much. Right? That will cost me $300 to do it through one of these services, or I could hire someone at $50,000 a year or $70,000 a year. The machines make it much cheaper. This is who to start with. Here's the rule. If you do something more than 3 times in a row, it's a candidate for automation. Think about your own job. What do you do that you could do with a machine better, faster, and cheaper? And now the most important part, how to prepare your career for AI. First, you need to learn how to think algorithmically. You need to be able to look at data sources, look at data, look at information, and figure out not what do I do with this today at work, but how do I build a system to address this? How do I configure something? Once you can think in terms of systems, you can then work with vendors, partners, technology companies to construct something that will make your life easier and make you more valuable to the organization. This does not mean teach yourself to code or teach your kids to code, right? Because think about code, right? Code is repetitive. Guess what? Machines will be able to generate code. But instead, learn to think structurally. Learn to build systems. There are now drag and drop systems for just about everything. This is my daughter's, one of her more recent programs. I don't know what she was, I think she's trying to get more followers on a social network. But she's building stuff by dragging and dropping. She doesn't have to write the code anymore. She's 12 now. Think about how valuable this kind of thinking is for the future, for the workforce. Second, you need to be in charge of the machines, to oversee them. A famous example was, I think it was the police department of Atlanta, attempted to build an algorithm that predicted the likelihood that someone would re-offend, commit another crime. The algorithm sucked. They got it 20% right. It was terrible. But strangely, it predicted African Americans were 5 times more likely to re-offend than Caucasians. Why? Someone built their biases into the algorithm. Someone said, I want to disadvantage this population, and they put it in the algorithm. Right? You don't need to be a coder or a programmer or a developer or a data scientist to figure out that ain't right. Right? Just like you don't need to be a chef, a master chef, to go, hey, I ordered a steak medium rare and that's well done. Right? But we need to be in charge of overseeing the machines to understand when the output is bad, because we're not there yet. And worse, if we don't do this, the machines will learn from our worst impulses rather than our best. Just ask Microsoft and Tiffany. It was a chatbot that went horribly awry. Third, be outcome focused. Who's getting replaced? If the work is highly repetitive, it's being replaced. Low value or high value. Every company wants to automate the bottom right-hand corner. High repetition, high value work, like, for example, financial auditing, automated. Low value, high repetition, the cost savings can't be ignored. We're going to automate that. The stuff that's hard to automate, high value, highly creative, non-predictable work. Creating new ideas, new insights, new disciplines, very difficult to automate. And then low value, high creative things, very difficult to automate. For example, cleaning a hotel room, not super high value, still needs to be done, but very difficult because it literally is a random mess every single day. Like, hey, this person broke all the glasses and did a bunch of weird things in the room. But let the machines do the heavy lifting. Think about the outcomes that you're going to shepherd. Be multidisciplinary. Look at the skills that LinkedIn says are the top skills of 2016. Any one of these professions is a candidate for automation because a lot of them, like cloud computing, is something that you can automate. But someone who can think across disciplines, who is good at cloud computing and good at data presentation and good at user interface design, that person is very difficult to replace because the machines cannot think across disciplines yet. It will be a long time before they do. Someone who's good at middleware and integration and SEM, very difficult person to replace because you're talking about training with two very different data sets. Think about studying and relearning everything that makes us human. Reading, spelling, writing, English, individual things machines can automate. We start putting together geography and history and drawing and music. Very difficult to automate. Right? That's the high value, high creative work that is still available to us. This is the future. The future will be here faster than you think. If we do it right, you get to have all three, fast, cheap, and good. If we do it wrong, your competitors get to do it and take your lunch. I want to leave you with one final thought about who's going to have a job and who's not, and what kind of jobs there will be. There will be two jobs left, not two physical ones, but the two kinds of jobs left in the world. They will be you manage the machines or the machines manage you, and that's it. Which do you want to be? I can tell you which one's going to pay more. But this is the future. Either you will manage the machines or the machines will manage you. I think everybody in this room who is here, who has had the foresight to be at this event, to be learning from everybody who's been on the stage all day talking about AI and ABM, you are the folks who are going to be managing the machines. You have a bright future. Your job is to take all this learning and turn it into the capabilities that your company can have. And so with that, I think we have a couple minutes for Q&A.
Absolutely, yeah. Question for Chris. Thank you. That was awesome. Do we have the microphones? Yes. Questions?
Fears? Doubts? Way in the back, over there.
So if we wanted to start tomorrow, where do you begin?
Where do you begin? It depends on your skill set. If you are a developer, you should be talking to one of those big 5 companies and signing up for a free account and trying the stuff out. If you are a marketer, start by reading. Start by reading and learning the space. There are a number of really good blogs and stuff. I actually have, if I go to the web browser, we'll throw the web browser up here. Let's see what happens. I'll let you do that. I wrote a blog post that essentially summarizes of the resources that you should subscribe to in order to get started as a marketer. Just Google for an AI resource roundup for marketers. It's a good place to start. Reading, listening to podcasts, talk to your peers. Come to events like this. Talk to your Demandbase account rep if you have one, because a lot of what's happening in the field right now, there are some very, very smart people. This organization has some really interesting answers. Just grill them a little bit. Next question. Go ahead, just a pop-up. The lady right here. Oh, that was a company called Automated Insights. They have a service. It's relatively primitive natural language generation. You give it some data and you help format it with a template, and then it creates that. And that's what's used, for example, for minor league baseball reports, because they're all pretty much the same thing, right? You're reporting the news. Financial press releases are written exactly the same way as well. True natural language generation, we're still not there yet, but we're getting closer and closer. There's a type of network called an RNN, recursive neural network. You feed it all of Beowulf, and it can create stuff that sounds like Beowulf, as an example. But it's not to the point where you can give it an annual report, and it'll come up with a new one for you. Not yet. Soon. Automated Insights is the company, I believe. Next question. Oh, you guys did not hit the coffee this afternoon. All right, well, I hope that you are the ones who manage the machines rather than the ones being managed machines. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Russ. That was great.